What thing surprised you the most in another country? Probably in Germany when I bought a beer in a convenience store and they offered to open it for me so I could enjoy it on my walk. Haha, the good old German Wegbier, that's how we call it. It just means having a bear for the walk from A to B. New York is exactly as advertised. Everything I see on TV shows and movies are exactly the same. I've been to a lot of places, but New York is the only one that is exactly my expectation. In Prague, when you open a camera in the street, it's like a force field. People automatically moves aside to not stand in the way. Heated sidewalks in Finland, absolutely lifesavers for me who had no idea how to walk on ice. No trash anywhere either. In Thailand, we were watching a movie and they played the national anthem and everyone stood up for their king. I'm in Thailand at the moment. There have been huge protests and speaking out against the monarchy for the past year or so, which is dangerous as it's illegal, with severe penalties. I went to watch a film a few weeks ago and only around half the people in the cinema stood up during the showing of the King's video. Before the movie, it's not actually the national anthem, just some rousing nationalist song with clips of him in ceremonial dress. This may not sound like a big deal, but it was absolutely unthinkable even 2 years ago for half the people to show such disrespect and to remain seated during that part. A few years ago, we went to Italy, and I made my wife go on a side trip to Herculaneum in Pompeii for a couple days. In Herculaneum, we were wandering around in town when 5 p.m. rolled around, and within 15 minutes, the streets were filled with people. Not hurrying past one another, but just standing around talking, having an ice cream, drinking a beer, or whatever. The amount of eye contact and observation. When I went to Morocco, in the evening the streets would be packed full of families sitting and talking. These people would watch each other. In fact, even the way I'm describing it with watch shows how unwelcome and uncomfortable it would be in England. People would also make eye contact and keep it frequently on the street, just with ease. It felt so strange for me at first. Japan has no garbage cans anywhere on the streets, but their streets were pretty damn clean somehow. I spent 3 weeks in Japan touring 6 different places. No cigarette butts anywhere, no blackened circles of gum on the sidewalk, no garbage. I once saw an abandoned empty can, but that was when I turned one street too early and heading into the red light district, instead of the next street over where there was a cheap soba shop. I got back to Canada and marveled at the absolute dumpsters we call cities. The incredible security in Seoul. I'm from Latin America, so I'm used to be very alert at everything, everywhere. I forgot my backpack in a small cafeteria, and after 25 minutes, it was completely untouched in the same spot. You could walk at 3 a.m. with your cell phone in your hands, and there'll be no fear about anything. The gondola ride in Venice. Not what I expected with the smelly waters, the crashing gondolas with the drivers cursing each other in Italian. Nothing romantic about it. Singapore is unbelievably clean. As soon as I stepped out of the plane, I swear I did not see a single speck of dust at their airport. Even the toilets were squeaky clean and completely dry. Every day, I go out to explore the city by foot and come back to the hotel with almost no dirt on the soles of my shoes. From a tropical country near the equator, I was surprised to know that the sun would set completely before 4 p.m. during winter, or having the sun still up at 10 p.m. during summer. That it's possible to weave through Cairo traffic with the skill of a seasoned rally driver while driving a manual transmission car, frequently using the horn and sipping tea by holding the saucer, not the cup, at the same time. Shout out to our taxi driver in Cairo. I was surprised that in southern US and many other parts of it too, I'm sure you actually need a car to get anywhere. As in, it doesn't just make life easier, it's a near impossibility to go places without it, even if you're in a major city. The tube in England. People complain so much about the tube being late, but the goddamn thing shows up every 5 minutes. That's amazing infrastructure that I wish Ireland had. The way time is experienced differently. I'm from the USA, and when my dad and I fortunately had the money to go to Italy through a college program as a teen, the first thing that struck me was how laid back people were there. In a lot of places, it was a very stereotypically slowed down lifestyle, with people walking down the street, drinking during the afternoon, conversing, and just causally dining outside. People didn't seem to be in a rush for anything, and while I'm sure they have their problems as well, there was much more centeredness across the country. People were much more focused on what was happening right now and what was in front of them. This was in 2008 though, so before the explosion of smartphones and social media. New York, so many people. London, so many people. I've been in Sydney quite a few times. I'm Australian, and it's nowhere near as busy. So I live in Australia. How fucking fast everyone else's internet are. I moved to Denmark a couple of years ago, and the biggest culture shock for me was julefrokost. Julefrokost translates to Christmas lunch, which sounds like a nice, wholesome lunch to celebrate the holidays. The first time I went to one, my husband warned me not to eat anything beforehand. because there is a lot of food. I didn't think much of it. I mean, we have Thanksgiving in the US, so I just assumed it was a big lunch. No, we have nothing like this. In the US, Jules Frocost is on an entirely different level. You see, it's a lunch only in name. What it really is sitting down at about noon and not getting up from your seat again until midnight or later. The food never stops coming. The schnapps never stop coming. It's course after course after course, and the Danes can drink you under the table any day. So combine that with strong liquor over a 12-hour stretch, and you are likely to die. My first Jules Frocost, I sat across from my husband's uncle, who kept my shot glass full the entire day. I was drunk by 2 p.m. and full to the point of bursting at 3 p.m. I have never been so sick as I was the day after my first Jules Frocost. Amsterdam. Knew they biked, but didn't expect multi-level bike parking lots every mile. Jesus Christ, I loved it there. That Romania is a hidden gem. So many beautiful castles, museums, and churches. It's ridiculously cheap compared to the rest of Europe, and the food is amazing. I was surprised at how much time the Balinese people spend on religious ceremonies, offerings, and worship. Yet, despite being some of the most religious people I've ever encountered, they were completely non-judgmental and understanding of others. Went to Gdansk, Poland a few years ago with work, and I was not expecting how beautiful the place was, especially the old town. The people were friendly and the food was delicious. I then went to Krakow 2 years later and was equally impressed. My first trip to New York, entering the subway, someone walked in front of another person, causing them to break their stride for a fraction of a second, which led to the following exchange without pause or hesitation from either party, shouted at each other as they walked in opposite directions. "You're an asshole! Your mother's an asshole! You don't even know who your mother is! She knows you're an asshole!" Fade. Just how empty Russia is. There was this one town we were going to visit which was planned by our guide, 100 or so kilometers away from Moscow, and it's a ghost town. We stayed in a hotel there with the other tourists and our guide. It was a 10, 11-story hotel, and we were the only people there. Outside of the hotel in the city, there were restaurants, shops, etc. Everything you'll find in a city, but they were all empty except for their owners. We rarely found 1 or 2 customers there. You could literally walk in the middle of the highway there. It gave an eerie vibe, but we enjoyed our stay. How impenetrable some American accents are. I'm a native English speaker, but being in New York made me feel like everyone was speaking a different language. Also, how unsocial and lonely Sweden felt. In Ireland, it's not uncommon to make small talk with strangers. If you pass someone on the road when walking, you're usually expected to smile at them at the least. It's the complete opposite in Sweden, I think. People seem not to acknowledge each other or try not to draw any attention at all to themselves if they're in public. A local explained that if he goes to a bus stop and sees someone else already there, he would wait at least 5 m away, even if it was raining and the stop was the only shelter. It felt very odd to me. I went to the Caribbean when I was younger to some of the smaller islands, and I was shocked by the level of poverty that exists there. This was almost 20 years ago now, so it could be different today. But at the time, pre-internet and being young and naive, all I'd ever seen about the Caribbean was the white sand beaches on TV. But it was quite an intense experience. When I visited Munich, Germany, I was surprised by a few things. The amount of people who biked everywhere, it was a ton of people. The amount of restaurants that were not Germany-based, i.e., we went to an excellent South African place, sushi, and got doner for lunch every day. Size of the cigarette packs, motherfuckers carrying around a Nintendo Switch-sized pack. The bottle returns are pretty dope. Buy 24-pack of beers, get 1/3 of your money back by returning the bottled. American BTW. The sense of safety in Japan. I had expected some level of safety, but was blown away by how you could literally leave a purse on a park bench and no one would take it. You could walk late at night and feel safe. At Tokyo Disney, we had a stroller for our then nearly 2-year-old. Happily left it outside each ride with a bag full of our stuff, with complete confidence that it would be exactly as we left it. Also how willingly everyone engaged with our nearly 2-year-old. We expected some kawaii gushing, and we got it especially from schoolgirls, but everyone would stop to say hello or distract her if she was grumpy. The best 2 memories I have are of an elderly man on the train playing peekaboo with her, and another elderly man pinching her cheeks and telling us she looked exactly like a Cupid doll. China. Almost every store and vendor, including street food and vegetable stalls, use mobile payment. How extremely nice everyone is in Ireland. Spent the first days suspicious before I realized everyone weren't trying to trick me into anything. Fantastic people. I went to Spain, and the sides of the road were smoking and a bit on fire. No one said anything, and the fire was getting pretty massive. It was just like, oh, that happens here. It's just on fire sometimes. American, grew up in a desert climate, visited Scotland at age 12. Green grass, real grass, was and still is one of the craziest things I ever have had the experience of seeing. At home, only 3-4 houses in the neighborhood had grass, and you'd be lucky if it was under 80% brown and yellow most of the time, due to the fact that we couldn't run the sprinklers because of the drought we'd been in since before I was born. As soon as we flew over Scotland in the plane, there was just so much green everywhere, even around the cities and the highways. I had extreme anxiety of flying over the ocean for the first time, and a fear of heights in general, but I was glued to that window for the rest of that flight. I've never been back, and I haven't seen grass anywhere close to that green since. US, the food servings are big. Like I ordered my regular food for dinner, added a bit of alligator side order because I want to taste it plus calamari for my beer. While watching the game, I did not finish any of them. When I went to Japan, when I ordered from food from any type of chain that is also in USA like McDonald's, Denny's, Burger King, it looked like the picture on the menu or the commercial. It was truly bizarre. Like in the USA, if you get a Big Mac, it looks nothing like the picture or in the commercials. When you get a Big Mac in Japan, it looks like the one in the picture. It's like somebody back there was painstakingly putting that burger together perfectly. The tool booths on the highways in Europe. Also, how easy it is to go between two countries. If it weren't for the welcome to Portugal signs, I wouldn't have even known we weren't in Spain anymore. Hollywood is a real dump. It's filthy and not at all made of dreams. Streets definitely not paved with gold either. Everyone always carries a makeup and thermos in Argentina. Even cops drive around drinking from their little cups with the metal straws. It is totally normal that you can buy matching cup and flask with your handbag, dress, etc.